streaming Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. And tonight we have a show which we will name "In the Trenches with Early Educators," and we have, let's just say, she is the host of the show, Sharon, joining us tonight, and she's going to bring something very unique to Let's Talk. As she has an announcement to make, what she's trying to do. And for those that don't know, a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with Sharon and have a discussion. And tonight we're going to continue our discussion as well as talk about some of the things that she has in the works for Let's Talk. Good evening, Sharon.
Good evening, Quentin. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here within the trenches with early educators. And like Quentin said a few weeks ago, I came on because I'm a brand new author. I also was a collaborator. So we have a newly published book back in July. And he asked us to come on to talk about the book and, a little bit of information around that. And so he invited, anytime, come back to the show anytime. So here I am, not just anytime, but twice a month, guys.
Oh, twice a month.
Twice a month, yes.
So we discussed it a little bit behind the scenes. Twice a month, you're going to come on and you're going to have a show twice a month on Wednesdays at 7:00.
Yes.
What is your goal towards the show?
I feel like I'm in early education. And so my arena is birth to 5. That's my mainstay. I have had experiences across the board, but my mainstay is 0 to 5. And I believe that is like the most critical time. That's where children's personalities are formed. The brain connections are made to determine further learning, whether they will have an easy time with learning or a more difficult time with learning. And I think that we just don't get enough props. There are a lot of us out there and we have issues and celebrations just like everyone else, but we don't really have a platform where it comes out unless it's some big name organization that many people in the field oftentimes don't even know about those. So part of what I hope to do with this platform is to bring awareness to the Birth to 5 arena, some of the challenges we have, some of the celebrations, our influence and our impact on higher education, because it all starts with us.
When you talk about what you plan on doing with the show, and like I told you, your book, from what you told me, it's an amazing vision that you have. And I know that you instituted the title of the book into the name of the show.
Yeah.
What was the reason why you decided to go there?
Part of it is because it's all tying in, Quentin. In the trenches, when we came up with the name of the book, it's like that's where we are. All educated. We are in the trenches. We are not back behind the scenes, back on the base, making plans. That's not us. We are in the trenches. We're right on the front line in battle every single day, facing those challenges that come along with educating children. So I felt like I wanted to kind of pull that thread to the show.
One of the things that we had discussed from prior was, I don't have my child is not in school, and I could only imagine from a school teacher's perspective teaching in the COVID, like teaching now, whether you agree with teaching virtually or classroom. I mean, from a parent's perspective, it got to be a hard decision.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely from an educator's, it's got to be a hard decision because when kids get the common cold, usually the teacher gets the common cold as well.
That is true. When you think about our environments, they're enclosed. When you go into a classroom, it's enclosed by 4 walls. There's some windows that very often in newer buildings don't really open. And then you've got the door. And so it is a breeding ground for germs. And when we're talking about children who do this and, in your face. And so it really can be a scary thing, both as a parent and an educator. Because I'm not in the classroom anymore, it's not something I've had to face personally, but I have a lot of friends and colleagues who are either in the classroom, leadership at schools, directors over childcare programs, owners trying to make decisions on whether to be open or not. Many of my friends are still have children, school-age children, and their parents, and so it's kind of like a no-win situation here. You know what I'm saying? Many of our children need to be in school because school is that place where they're going to get those nutritious meals and snacks. They're going to get the nurture. They're going to learn better because they are face to face. The teacher is right there to support them. Whereas the virtual,
that's actually where a younger child actually learns to socialize in school. And we had discussed it before. The district that me and Shani grew up in right now ran out of Chromebooks. The Chromebooks is on back order, and it's like, when you sit and think about it, you ask yourself, well, maybe the people have these resources, and I had to share with you before that the occupation that I have, I know that the majority of the country doesn't even have Wi-Fi.
Right.
So I can only no Wi-Fi. Your district is doing virtual teaching, and it's like you're stuck. The parent is trying to juggle with having a job because they're essential, and getting their kid the very best education that they could possibly get going forward. So what plans do you have for the show? Like, far as what do you you told me your intention. I'm excited. Don't I don't want you to think I'm not excited.
No.
Like I told you, the universe don't make mistakes. So
no, it does not. And one of my affirmations that I say every morning is, why do things always work out so well for me? And so it's no mistake that I called at the appropriate time. And here we are.
What was your phrase? The one I really liked.
Put some action behind that desire and just watch. Yes, that is in the intro of the book. And that comes from many, really all of us, the original authors, and even in the next book, we've already started working on book 2. The biggest piece why we had not become authors when we did is because we were afraid. We were afraid of, is my writing going to be good enough? Now these are educators, right? Questioning our writing capabilities. And then another one was, who wants to really hear what I have to say? Well, our stories connect. If you are an educator or a parent, or work with children in any way, our stories will connect with you because you've dealt, even if you're not in the field, because the themes are general themes. They just play themselves out in the world of education. And so many people had the desire for years, just hadn't done anything, and including myself. And so that phrase, as I was writing the intro, it just came to me. And so that I've kind of coined that phrase. And it's what I put when I sign my book on my page. That is usually what I put in there. And if it's a personal, I'll personalize it inside the cover. But this was a dream, something I always wanted to do. And when my mentor put the challenge out, what you're going to do with all this time that you have now during COVID, you've been given the gift of time. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to be better? And that's when the idea came to me. I'm going to do this thing. And so amazingly enough, I called the publisher. We went from conception, when I told him about it on April the 9th, to production with the ebook being published on Amazon July the 7th of this year during COVID. So
You can see that statement.
yeah, let's see.
Early childhood educators are also caregivers. We give hugs and pick children up and choose proximity is essential to the caregiving process. So something like COVID is of concern to teachers.
Yeah, yeah,
And
because
if,
go
and
ahead.
if you're watching on YouTube, one of the things that a lot of us don't understand about YouTube is the YouTube algorithms are very important. So if you're on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel so that even if you don't catch Sharon when she does the show live, you'll get the alert that she's doing the show or so forth. So make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel and like the content. I know that some of the shows you may not like, but we got some interesting things on our plate. But I'm really looking forward to what Sharon is going to bring to the channel, as well as myself. Like I get a front row seat every week to listen to this, so I'm good.
I'm glad you're here because, like I said, this allows me to reach our industry and others to educate other people about our industry and the story of teachers and childcare providers and center owners and directors and people who are in leadership roles. And there's so many intricate moving parts to the birth to 5 arena that, it's not recognized. Most of the time when I tell people what I do, oh, what school system do you work for? Well, I don't. I work for a nonprofit agency, a child care resource and referral agency with the state of Georgia. And so, again, my hope is to bring a lot of awareness, a lot of education around what happens before the children get to kindergarten and how that impacts kindergarten on into adulthood.
Also, if anybody in the chat has a question for Sharon, I'm quite sure she'll be more than welcome to answer any question that you may have in regards to what she's mentioning. Wow. That's a task. I kind of, like I told you when we had our discussion before, at that age, it's so many different things going on for a child. I told you I was one of them kids that acted out a lot, and I don't think I acted out because I was bad, so to say. It was just something to do. As crazy as it may seem, I think that now with kids, and I always hear this, I've seen it with my nieces and their age group. I remember when that thing ADHD just came about, and I'm like, what's that? They're like, oh, it's some type of diagnosis. I'm like, man, we all had ADHD when I was in school. What you talking about? we wasn't normal. So I think that when you're dealing with children of that age, you guys, from an educational standpoint, you guys are like, not for lack of better words, and I'm not taking y'all out of y'all profession, but y'all kind of like got to be like doctor too, because you got to see certain things in behavior that maybe educators of yesterday may just be like, ain't nothing going on. Now you have to be a little bit nosy.
Yeah.
So dealing with the parent, it might be a little bit tricky because, the village don't raise children like it used to.
It does not. And it is my hope that one of the good things that will come out of this COVID situation is that we realize that we need one another. That we cannot do this on our own. People are literally going crazy. I was one of them. After so much time in the house and not connecting, truly connecting. Like this is one thing to talk through video. Yeah, that's great when it's new. Oh my God, I just talked on the video. However, after so many meetings on Zoom and so many trainings and just interfacing through this virtual platform, you miss, just like the Atlanta Center for Professional Development said that, ACP, that's Michelle. Oh my gosh. Hey, Michelle. So, but just like he said, it's about the nurturance. We are connection. We were created to be in relationship. And so when we are unable to have that, it does something to us, and we crave the touch, the hugging, the conversation, just how you touch somebody on the shoulder, man, whatever, you bump the fist, and we can't do any of that. We attempt a fist bump, wrong way.
What's amazing about that is that a lot of people in the mental health field are saying how like their business is kind of going up right now because a lot of us are dealing with depression and so forth and so on because of human nature has been created. We've been created to socialize. So now with no socialization, even for a lot of people I know that had death in their families, not even being able to hug and embrace your loved ones during this time unless they live with you, it's kind of difficult, and it's not natural.
It's not.
And like you said, kids are always blowing their nose, rubbing their eyes.
Yes. Yeah. Good.
So that's good. I'm like I said, I'm very intrigued at what you plan on doing, and I'm gonna be here, and I know you got some things up under your sleeve.
I'll be challenged every month to go higher and higher. One of the things that I do plan to do with the show, though, Quentin, is have guest speakers, and most of the people. I don't want to put anybody on a high platform or belittle or berate anybody, but I want a lot of everyday people who are in the trenches. You know what I'm saying? There will be times when we'll have some folks who are in leadership roles, and big time leadership roles. But I also want to hear from the voices of the people who are doing it every day, who can give us real live stories about what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis from a variety of perspectives. You know what I'm saying? So I have people who own programs. I know people who are principals, people who are teachers in the elementary, high school, people in the childcare industry, people who are trainers and consultants, people at the state level. And so I want to just bring so much of a variety of perspectives so that we can hear it from everybody, because so often what we get from the media is just that. What we get is propaganda. And so the story can be twisted to make us hear what they want us to hear, right? Even though it's not kind of really how it happened. So again, that's part of why I want to do this. I want some truth coming out. I want real people who are out there every day doing the work, not just sitting behind the table making decisions, but I want to get some of them here too.
Well, I can tell you now. I remember the last time when we did the interview, you said to me, "Oh, are you just recording and you gonna edit?" We ain't editing nothing, mistakes and all. We bringing it up. like the show is live, and once it goes on YouTube and Facebook platforms, I don't touch them. I believe in being very organic.
Yes.
And I know that's what you want to present. So we want people to understand all of the pros and those cons that come with it. One of the things that you mentioned was, I don't think most people understand how the role the school plays with the breakfast program. A lot of during COVID, you saw where a lot of people weren't used to their kids being home for breakfast and lunch. Right. Now it's more money going out. In some of the school districts, they did have, you could drive by the school and pick up a free lunch. But I know a lot of people said that was inadequate. We discussed it before that we both believe that education should be given that same blank check that the Department of Defense get. But hopefully we'll have someone in charge one day that was an educator, and they give that blank check to the Department of Education, where we wouldn't have to have shortages of resources like food. food and things that children need to maintain and survive, and to think about just school, because so many of our kids, even as far back as the early kids, they shouldn't have to worry about that type of stuff, you
They
know.
shouldn't, but they do, and it happens at such a young age where there's scarcity of food. You talked about internet, so there's scarcity of access to technology. You know, there is scarcity with clothing. Those children that wear the same thing to school every day, and whether it is because they don't have, or whether it is because their home life situation, there are just adults who are not paying enough attention. We don't know the whys all the time, but it happens. We know it happens. And so, with going back to what you said about we are doctors, we're a lot of things. I tell young teachers, new teachers, we're detectives, because we have to figure out a lot of stuff. Like you said, just from looking and listening and asking questions, you'll find out what you need to know about that child to be able to truly tap in and reach that child, and then help that family with the resources that they may need. But we play counselor, you know, therapist sometimes. We have to nurse, first aid. You know, when something happens and they're not feeling well, and in the schools they can go to the nurse. In early care and education, it's just there. Hey, Charlene, thank you for joining us this evening. Good to see you. That is one of my directors that I work with. So it's just, I think that, again, there's so much that people don't see. Educators spend so much money out of their own pocket. So we do need that. Yes, it does start early, Starbucks girl. It does start early.
Yeah, those are some things in the chat that I just wanted to bring up. You have an audience here, so I don't want to scare
I'm
you with that.
glad. Yeah, because I can't. Now that's what. Yeah, Quentin has to help me on that because I can't see you guys, so I have no idea here.
So yeah, the
I
scarcity and the educators having to go in their pocket. I used to and I'm still affiliated with a food bank, and they once a year they give out supplies to those teachers, and it's like it's amazing that people don't understand. Like, people don't have pencils, paper, and pen. It's like we take this stuff for granted, and I know you being a nonprofit, having to solicitate these companies to, as we would say, give back is like, you know, it's like painstaking, because a lot of times they don't understand. Like, when you guys ask people for assistance, it ain't because y'all want to ask them, it's because y'all really need it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, every time something happens and budgets have to be cut, what's the first thing they cut? Education. It is always the first thing on the chopping block. I mean, they cut the Georgia pre-K budget.
I'm gonna ask you a question about that. You know what? You just brought that up. I mean, even state to state, on a national level, why is it, no matter who's in charge, because we don't want to attack a political party, but it's always, and I can remember by you saying that, even since I was a kid when I used to watch C-SPAN with my grandparents, education always is the first thing they attack.
You know, what's the saying? If you want to know what a person values, look at their checkbook. And so, to me, that our country doesn't truly value education. We're a capitalistic society, and so our push is make money, make money, make money, make money. Well, education doesn't really make you money like that. You have to spend money, spend money, spend money in education. But they don't understand the impact. And let's see, we're going to get into something else. Maybe they do, and maybe that's why. Because, there's the whole preschool, the pipeline from preschool to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they can keep us underfunded and we don't have the things that we need, and our kids who need it the most aren't getting it, they're already on the path.
Yeah, it's kind of we kind of like always try to make things separate, but in no actuality, everything ties together. I shared that with you discussing some things behind the scenes before, how
Mm-hmm.
a lot of guys in jail, some of their issues with crime started all the way back as behavioral problems in school, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think that the parent or that child even understands what's going on. But
No,
as you would say, the educators, maybe not the teachers who care or the educators who care, but somewhere somebody is earmarking them for that pipeline.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes. If one thing, thank you, Stephanie. That's one thing that we were talking about. COVID has this pandemic has done that people are really beginning to understand what we deal with every day, all day, even after school.
And then on top of that, you got to go home and you got to worry about your family.
Yes, that's one of the reasons I came out the classroom. When I realized when I would come home from work, did not have enough energy for my own babies. I said, okay, I've got to find another way to do this. I can't. And there are hundreds of thousands, millions of teachers who figure that out. I was just one who could. My path, my journey was different, and so that's when I began to step up into more leadership roles where I am now and doing the training and the consulting, and helping grow teachers to their maximum potential as educators. So I think that it's just when it comes to education, that's what I said. We're gonna have you. Sometimes people, what are you gonna talk about? Oh my gosh, you just wait, because it's all intertwined.
Yeah.
Everything starts with, we wouldn't have politicians, and we wouldn't have doctors and lawyers and anyone else who does anything, because in order to get a job, what do you have to have? A
You
high
gotta have
school
education,
diploma
at least.
or GED, right? If you want to do a professional level job, you have to have a college degree. So obviously education is important, because if all the teachers just said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, bump it, I'm out, what you going to do? You can't just put anybody in that position.
Mm.
So it is a very specialized, teachers have to go through a whole lot to become certified to be able to stand in a classroom and teach. So we deserve, the honor and the respect and the exposure. And so that has become my platform, to make sure that through my book, that the word gets out, stories from
Well,
educators.
you gave your book a plug, Sharon. Can
It's
you
my
give a could you give it a plug all the way? You just threw the
Oh,
book
I'm
on
gonna
the
give
screen.
it a real plug, but okay, I'll give it the real plug. Right.
Don't do it halfway.
So this is In the Trenches: Stories from the Heart of Early Childhood Professionals. This is the first edition. There are 9 of us in this book, and I hope that some of them were able to join in tonight. It was a birthing process. I'm excited that it happened. We will have to drop the information where you can purchase the book. Of course, you can get it on Amazon, but as authors, we try to do our own thing because it's just better for us monetarily speaking, since there are 9 of us in that book. And so when there is a collaboration, Amazon is convenient, but it's much better to go through the author, because Amazon takes, in this capitalistic society, Amazon's going to make their money too. So
One of the things after you give your plug to your book is, like I told you, I'm an avid reader, and I just think that it's amazing. I want you guys to know, I told you and Shani before, as well as you could tell the other authors. you guys to do this during COVID is an amazing job. I mean, to be able to get everybody, as we would say, to think on the same page. And I'm glad that you did the book, and I'm glad that once I get it, I know I'm going to like it because
Absolutely.
I'm quite sure it's 9 different journeys and 9 different stories, and I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Some people probably got some horror stories in there.
Not quite horror, however, there are some trials. People really went through some things, and the great thing is in their second chapter, you read about how they overcame those challenges in the first chapter. And so, how that helps is if you resonate with that. We had one of our first Amazon um, testimonies, or the feedback that they give, talked about one chapter out of the whole book. They talked about this one chapter that hit them and made it open their eyes, and they were just like, thank you so much, this is really going to help me be a better educator. And so it's the stories like that you hear from people. We got another one coming. All right, Steph.
Sharon, while you just talking, right? I see her question. It pops up, right? So the first thing that caught me was institutional racism, and
I'm sure.
one of the things,
but we were talking about it. We just didn't blatantly call it that.
Yeah, but see, the thing about it, Sharon, is nowadays with everything that's going on, all you hear is police reform. This thing is bigger than police reform. I mean, literally the whole structure of this country. So if you really want to rectify a situation, that structure needs to be broken down. Absolutely. And rebuilt. It sounds crazy. I know some purists may be like, "Oh, but that's the only way." I mean, clearly educators see what's going on. You got people nowadays, and even what the president just did, where he doesn't want the Project 1619 even be taught in the schools, which I believe that Nana Jones did a very good job with the Wall Street Journal with that. I read it. I actually was very intrigued when it was coming out. I read it. I saw their stuff on YouTube. I believe it was a good job. It's just amazing how, and not making an excuse for the president, is that one thing that we as people don't understand is that some people just don't get it. Not because they're just ignorant. They just don't get it. And what I mean by that is that growing up where I grew up at, in high school, I went to Ellis Island for a school trip. Oh. So if you have a group of people whose family came through Ellis Island, they came to America with hope. For us, we got to America in despair. Mm-hmm. So their experience or their outlook on this country is always going to be positive. They're going to always think that, the old method, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I mean, it has never been, and I always try to say this not to deflect away from your show. I personally believe that the Black American, for where we have gotten to where we came from, is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, well, we are remarkable people. We are resilient beyond. We are. If you look up the word resilient, it should just be pictures of Black people, because we have come. As you said, I was watching Samuel L. Jackson has started he's got a reality show where he traced his own roots back to Africa, and he is mapping the story of the slave trade, and they're actually diving and finding evidences of the ships that were bringing slaves across to the Western Hemisphere. And just watching that, emotions.
It's an interesting thing because you hear a lot of people and they'll say, "Oh, we're tired of hearing about that story." But because we were more than that, we our ancestor gene, we were kings, we were queens, yes. But I think that we really, really need to understand that we were probably the only enslaved people ever on the planet who lost everything:
Yeah.
religion, spirituality, uh, language. Usually people kept their language,
Name,
not us. Names. I
family.
mean, even origin. You got some people that were slaves in a particular part of the world. They knew where they came from. We don't even know. Oh, I came from Ghana. Well, I ain't come from Ghana. I came from East Africa, and it's really really sad, and it's something that those stories that were passed down from generation. They never. I believe we'll never forget about it, and never forget about the stories. So, whether they want to teach them in our educational institutions or not, we're gonna always talk about them.
Yeah, and I agree that because until the system tells our story in truth, that's why the racism can continue to be perpetuated. Because there's a story that people are taught to believe that isn't true, while the truth continues to be suppressed. And so we have to take responsibility for making it happen. One of the ways we could do that is in November. I saw a post on Facebook that said, let's go to the biggest family reunion we've ever seen, the biggest Black family reunion on November the 3rd. See you at the polls. And I think what people don't understand, we're so caught up in the top leadership election that we forget about the fact that there are a whole lot of other officials that we need to be voting in, starting at the local level. And so whether or not you believe in, or let's look at the whole picture. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to take a look at, what do you want for your country, and who's supporting that, and whether they're supporting 100% of what you want. If collectively they're supporting most of what we need and what we want, we probably need to go with that.
It's funny because I told you politics. I purposely trigger people when it comes to that stuff with
Yeah.
some of the things that I say and do, but most people don't understand that my personal thing is just to hold them accountable. I was a person that could not vote at one time, and I understood the purpose of voting when I could not vote. So now, being that I can vote again, your vote is not a gift. It's not something you should just be giving away because I like that person, which happens a lot. I like the way they move. No, they work for us. Like straight up, they work for us when they want to come around and say what they're going to do with all these broken promises and all that stuff. We should hold them accountable. Which even to the point, and I know what's going on in the world today. Like, I shouldn't have to wait for November for results. You work for me. Hold an emergency session down in D.C. and I want answers for why a particular thing keep going on. And it's like we gotten to the point as the people where we think that we're subservient to them. No.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Our government is supposed to work for us, and we became complacent at some point, and so we go do our due diligence and vote people in office, and then we just kind of sit back and watch what happens. And it's like you said, they hire lobbyists to, there are people who get paid a lot of money to go and support certain bills and certain issues, and we should be doing the same thing. And we don't, that's another area of education. I have a wonderful person, and I hope she will be willing to join us. She is here in Atlanta, and she works very diligently. All of our Georgia representatives know her by first name because every time they are in session, she is down at the Capitol advocating for children, and in particular, Black children. And so, you know, the 2020 census, you know,
which in my personal opinion is more important than the election.
You know, and people don't understand what the census is. I don't want them all in my business. They don't need to know how many. Yes, they do, because part of the reason you have to go 100 miles to get to decent medical care is because your people in your area did not fill out the census. So you got looked over. There's no need to put anything in this area because there aren't enough people to serve. So the census is for 10 years. They're going to make decisions off of this 2020 census that are going to be in place for 10 years. So when we don't have services, when they're shutting schools down, you know, that's how they, you know, and then you're going to complain when your child's school is overcrowded. Well, they ain't had no business shutting it down. Well, nobody in that neighborhood filled out the census, so they didn't know how many children were there.
Because we was at home during the pandemic and forgot about it.
You know what? Let me tell you something. I got something in the mail, I promise you, every other week about that doggone census, even after I filled it out. So I'm not going to take that, you know, because it came to if you had it went to every address, every residential address, whether it said your name or current resident. Mm-hmm. So when we say we don't know, it's sometimes, not always, sometimes but we have that old art. What they said, if you want to keep information from us, put it in writing, because we don't read. And we have to become more avid readers, because that's where the real information is. The media, I don't watch the news because I get upset. And so I just would rather, I don't, you know, think about news comes on first thing in the morning and the last thing before you go to bed. They're programming our minds, you know. And so
my cousin got an idea for us. She asked us, what type of ideas can I have to get people to sign up for the census? It's crazy how people are scared.
Wow. All right. So let's put that out to everybody, because let's see. Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, because I got some information on the job today. Because I work with child care programs, I'm going to work with center directors to come up with some kind of fun campaign to talk about being counted and talk about the census because they're saying that in our state, and I'm in Georgia in particular, the numbers for people who have completed the census is so low. And that's scary to me, because what is that going to mean when they start allocating federal dollars to our state? We don't need it, because we don't have that many, even though they know that those numbers have to be off. So one of the things I'm going to do is work with those child care programs that are open to make sure that they are asking parents, you know, have you done the census? And even letting them know that this is how, you know, this is how we get our money. This is how we get programs in our area. This is how they determine hospitals and libraries and all those things that our tax dollars pay for. That's how they decide who gets it. And if we aren't counted, we don't exist. So I don't know if anybody else has ideas. Put it in the chat and we'll share, and we can share with each other. But was it Nisi? Was that her name? Yeah. So Nisi, that's something for me to write down, because one of the things I do want to do is be efficient. And if there are things we don't resolve here on the show or have ideas, we want to come back and revisit it so that we can share with people. So creative ways to get census buy-in. And you know, we are a hard sell, because we will put our feet in and dig in and won't budge. And I think a lot of that, historically speaking, comes from a place of mistrust of the government, because even now, Washington the government, you know. But we have to understand that we are a part of this country. We do live, we're citizens, we pay taxes, you know, they take anybody who works pays federal, and anybody who buys anything in their state are paying state and sometimes even county taxes.
My cousin Niecy Sharon, she runs a diaper bank.
Oh, where?
In Newark, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So see, those are the kinds of things we need to shout out on my show.
Look, hey, listen, we got to get back to having it like the Green Book, right?
Having the what?
Like the Green Book, having our resources with our books and
yes.
going old school. Like, okay, I'm in Georgia. I got to get through Georgia. I got to know who to get and stay with, so I don't have any issues going on.
Yeah.
But Sharon,
even just to support, because she's where now?
She's in Essex County in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay, so like you're in Jersey, but I also have family in Jersey. Might not be in that same county, but to me, it's all about getting the word out. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm glad Niecy's here. I hope she keeps coming back.
Yeah. She was we were actually supposed to do a show, and my scheduling kind of messed up. I was all over the place. That was my fault. But hopefully she'll be on the show soon, and definitely we'll pass information along. So, Sharon, do you have anything else you would like to
add? Wow, don't ask me that. So I do, though. I have a story I want to tell. All right. And this story proves what I've been saying about early education being the foundation. So my best friend, one of my best friends, her son is planning to go to medical school. He's studying for the MCAT. He has a couple of friends who've already taken it. And there's a section on the test called CARS. It's the Critical Analysis and Reasoning section. Okay. And they failed that part. Now, because of COVID, the MCAT has been shortened. So they don't have as much opportunity to get as many points. So that CARS section, while many people probably did not do very, very well on it in the past, they had more tests to give them more points, so they might not have failed. Well, they've cut out a lot of those sections. And so now this CARS section is really important for you to pass the MCAT. Well, the conversation went, she said, well, they're saying that test just wasn't meant for us to pass. And yes, there's a lot of racial bias, cultural bias in standardized tests. But when she explained to me, and I went to do some research and I looked it up, it's critical thinking skills. And what happens, as a culture, we're so inundated with, they need to learn. They need to learn how to think. Because learning just means which is why we're how we are. I'm just waiting for you to give it to me, and then I'll give it back to you. As opposed to thinking, I'm presented with a situation, and now I've got to figure out how to solve it. And so what happens is there's a reading passage, and then there are some questions that they have to answer. There's multiple choice, so the answers are given to you. But you have to be, it's not a blatant answer. So the question is not going to say, well, what color was the cat in the story? It starts there, though. That's how we begin the comprehension, right? But it's more critical. And the information is going to, you've got to kind of look at it and say, well, this is stated in a negative way, and it's not stated positively in the passage, so this must be it. So, and it starts early, helping children solve problems when they're fighting over toys, helping them talk it out. When they're blocked, their building keeps falling. It keeps falling. Well, I wonder why that's happening. Let's take a look and see what you're doing and figure it out. Let's figure out why. So it begins in preschool, giving children, we call it common sense. It's not common sense. It's critical thinking. And I was a product of the SRA reading program, and I give all the props to my education and why I'm such an avid reader and why I do have some good critical thinking skills. I give it credit to that, because that program, all you did was read little stories and have to critically analyze a comprehension question. So you had to go back in the text and figure out the answer. And that's all that section of the NCAP is doing. And so I gave her some tips, but I was like, wow, this is just validation that what we're doing at the early stage, it's more important to teach children how to think. Because if you teach them how to think for themselves, they can find the information. I can get a master's degree education. I can get a PhD education if I just go buy the books and read and research, and I can get the education. I won't have the degree for it, but I can get the education. And so
I think that most people don't understand the difference between theory and being able to applicable skills. I mean, it's not always easy. I mean, even think of some of the things that are values that a lot of us have. Yeah, it sounds good in theory, but your actions is totally different than what you're saying your value is, because you believe in it in theory, but you don't believe it in action.
Right.
I think that's a very critical thinking. I told you a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, we don't, as we say, we wait till it's too late to challenge the student. I mean, you can start that early with critical thinking, being able to problem solve and using little things instead of just, as you would say, bookwork.
Yeah.
No, get them to problem solve at a very early age. And I'm like I told you, I'm really looking forward to this, and this is going to be fun.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. I want to thank all of the people that joined in, both your listeners and my new listeners. And I hope that they will continue to come back and not only join my show, but check out some of the other things that you have going on, some of the other regulars that you have that come on weekly or monthly or however often they're coming on. So I know I started watching a couple of videos in there, so it's good, interesting stuff that you have. So,
well, I have just a programming note. I'm glad you brought that up. I have a friend of mine that I'm going to talk to tonight at 10:30 Eastern. He's out in Sacramento, California, and he's actually one of the brothers who wrote legislation for the bill to be passed for reparations.
Okay.
And actually, what's going on now is they're just waiting for the governor of California to sign the bill.
Wow.
So I'm supposed to talk to him tonight. We actually met. A lot of people don't understand that social media can be a benefit. We actually met on Twitter.
Okay.
We collab on a lot of information. So I'm gonna have a talk with him tonight, and tomorrow I got to talk to an independent candidate that's running for congressman down in Tennessee.
Wow.
So we got some things in store. I mean, a lot of times with the shows, some people may be like, "Oh, this show ain't for me," and like a friend of mine always say that the shows may not be for everybody. I try to be everywhere to gauge what people like, what people be interested in. One of the things that for me, like I told you, education is very I did not go to college. I didn't go to I went to secondary school, but then didn't complete. But I believe in education. I believe in how important it is today. I'm an avid reader. I've read over 500 books and have a very good memory. So I'm one of the people that can remember a lot of the things that I've read. So I am intrigued by what you want to do with the show and where you want to take it, and as well as your audience that you brought to the chat. I mean, I appreciate you guys, and remember, like, subscribe, and share. Get the word out of what Sharon's trying to do. Just because you know her, that doesn't mean that your whole audience knows who she is and what she's trying to do. So make sure that you share this show and, explain what she's trying to bring to the table. And, we never know the connections that we make along the way and how these connections will help us with on the journey that we're all traveling.
Absolutely.
So with that, we're going to close out the show. The next show for Sharon, I think, is October 7th?
October the 7th. Yeah.
October 7th, 7 p.m. right here. You know, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share so you get the reminder. Hit the little bell thing on YouTube so you get the reminder that we're gonna be going live, so you don't forget. And really appreciate you guys in the chat. Really appreciate being to do a show and have questions in the chat helps me and Sharon as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times she may want to talk about something, but because she wasn't asked, she'll forget. So, you know, she's an engaging person. So I'm quite sure that when she gets questions, she wants to answer those questions. And with that, everybody have a blessed night and stay safe.
Good night.